Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. It means we're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Half that work week just about in the rear view mirror. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and we are fired up. You are here with us. Coming up in 30 minutes, it is What If Wednesday. If you've got a what if for me, we got some room for you. Send a text, 225-499-1045, and we will get that to the show. We'll talk with Dr. Jeremy Burnham, Boxner, at the end of hour number one. Virg Osbury sat down with Tyrann Mathieu and had an interesting comment on Will Wade that I want to play coming up at 2 o'clock. We'll get to a new feature that we're going to get into here with LSU football, my in-depth chart series. It's up at LouisianaSports.net for your reading pleasure. We're going to start it from an audio perspective coming up at 2:15. We got some Saints breakout candidates. ESPN.com came up with one. I got 4, so we'll talk about that at the bottom of hour number 2. But for the first 30 minutes of this radio program, which is a long time, we're going to go through LSU baseball's signee breakdown. We'll get to our opening drive here in a second, but just for the record, I'm doing this segment today and not on Friday when the draft starts because, quite honestly, we want to get it up on demand for y'all to be able to access it at another time before the draft actually happens. I've taken a lot of time to gather some information on this. It's something that is really, really impactful for the LSU draft and the LSU baseball program moving forward. So I want to give it a little bit of time to breathe before it's actually dated when the draft starts. So we'll do that right now with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
All right, Major League Baseball's draft is this weekend from the All-Star Game up in Philly. It'll be 2 days, and it's a huge, huge, huge turning point in the calendar for elite college baseball programs, and certainly LSU falls into that category, despite the fact that last year wasn't great. One of the reasons why last year may not have been so great, well, you had a 17-man signing class, and 8 of them were snatched up by Major League Baseball. It was something that Jay Johnson was not happy about. That's something he was very public and on the record about. And so he went about this signing class with an intent to insulate himself from that to an extent. He wants to get players in his program and keep them in his program for 3 years. That's the way he feels is best at LSU. And while that's not necessarily as realistic on the football and basketball fronts, those are just, football's got such a huge roster pool and so many guys are going to transfer out. You're just going to have to supplement. Basketball, it's just going to be volatile. If you have pros, they're going to go. If you got guys that don't play as much, they're going to go, and you really only need 6 or 7 guys. It can be a little bit volatile in that range. In baseball, especially at LSU or at Vanderbilt or at Florida or at Arkansas or A&M or Texas, you're a big dog, and you can get elite players, and you can keep them for a few years. You can keep Derek Curiel here. You can keep Cade Anderson here. You can keep your stalwarts in your program, Stephen Milam and Omar Cerna and Cade Arambidi and William Schmidt, Kason Evans. Like, that's what you want to build from, and then you supplement with Anthony Irons. And if Tommy Tanks becomes available, you jump on that. And they've done that this year as well. But he wants to get these guys in and keep them. Well, to do that, you're going to have to flirt with Major League Baseball. You're going to have to cheat up against that line and try to get guys that are fringe guys that are probably going to have to field a phone call worth $1.4 million and go, no, I'm not taking that. And that's what LSU is trying to do, and realizing that a lot of guys are going to jump for the 1.4, and some of the guys you sign that you get committed 2 years ago as high school sophomores are going to get $4 million and aren't going to come. You got to get a lot. And so instead of 17, LSU's at almost 24 in this class. And so they've insulated themselves that if we lose 8 this time, we've still got 14, 15 guys coming instead of 7 or 8. So that's what Jay Johnson has attempted to do with this class. It's a lengthy list, so it's going to take me 2 segments to get through, but we'll start with the 2 guys that LSU has gotten to pull out of the draft. Remember, you got Derek Curiel to do that. Omar Cerna did that last year. There are 2 that have done that this year for LSU. Braxton Beatty, a left-handed pitcher, and then Nate Davis, an outfielder. We've talked about both of those 2 guys, but you've gotten those 2 guys to pull out. So you've got a speedy outfielder in this class. It's a left-handed hitter and a really polished prospect. and you've got Braxton Beatty, an undersized left-handed pitcher with a low 90s fastball that's got a starter delivery mechanics and not necessarily a big risk as it was, but he's going to come to LSU. Let's start with kind of the top guys in this class that I don't think we're going to be talking about very long. Logan Schmidt is left-handed. He is 6'4". He throws 97, 98 miles an hour, and I don't really need to say a lot more than that. Logan Schmidt is probably going to be a first-round pick. The feeling around LSU with people I talk to, I don't think Logan Schmidt's going to be at LSU, okay? With the caveat of weird things happen, but I don't think he'll be at LSU. I think it's a reasonable thing to say. Malachi Washington is an outfielder from Georgia. The word that actually got tossed to me was Dylan Cruz. I take that very seriously and kind of push back a little bit, but he is a 6-foot outfielder with really, really good tools. He can really run. He can hit for power. And I think he's going to go in the first 2.5 rounds, and I don't think he will play at LSU. Anthony Murphy is another outfielder. He's from the other coast out west in Corona, California. Similar measurables, 6 feet, 6'1", 200 pounds, right-handed hitter, easy power, and pro teams are really on him. I don't think those three guys are going to make it to campus. It would be a surprise if they do. I don't slam the door on any of these guys. These are the least likely in my estimation. The first guy to get your ears to perk up on, and there are really two in this category, are Jensen Hirschkorn and Dominic Santarelli. Jensen Hirschkorn is 6'7" and throws 97 miles an hour. If he was left-handed, forget it. But he's right-handed, and that's really good. But he doesn't have an established second pitch. If you're a professional organization, you're going to look at Jensen Hirschkorn and go, the projectability is awesome, the velocity's already there. I got to teach him to spin it a little bit better. And if you're at LSU, you're like, well, if he's already throwing 97, I got a guy that's going to throw 99 miles an hour pretty quickly. I'll figure it out from there. And Jensen Hirschkorn is a guy who could be a first-round pick. And if he's a first-round pick, he'll go. But if he starts to slip into the late second round, this is one of those guys you could look at and say, do you want to take the 2.2? Great money. Do you want to take the 2.2 right there, guaranteed bird in the hand? Or do you want to come to LSU for 3 years and maybe make Cade Anderson money? Because Hirschkorn profiles like that. What do I think he's going to do? I think he's going to go to the draft. I think he's going to take $2 million to go. But it's not a done deal by any search. So Jensen Hirschkorn is a name that you need to be paying attention to. And then Dominic Santarelli is a name that's being tossed around on the internet a good bit right now. He is the most powerful hitter in this class. He's a 6'3", 230-pound left-handed hitter who went to the scouting combine and was just crushing the ball. Now, this is a huge number for those that follow some of the metrics in baseball. And this is batting practice, so it's not like he's hitting off of, elite pitching. He's taking BP. But he averaged 110.9 miles an hour. He averaged 111 miles per hour at the MLB scouting combine, which is absurd. That was the best at the event. But he's not a great athlete. He's an average runner, and he doesn't have a true position. He's a first baseman. He's got outfield by his profile, but he's a first baseman. And two guys in LSU's recent past to go to the scouting combine and just blow up the exit velocity are Jared Jones and Mason Braun, who are average athletes that are big and strong, that can hit it hard. And he's kind of in that category. And when I saw the video from the scouting combine and I saw the numbers of him, he's 6'3", 230, and he's hitting an average of 110 miles an hour, I'm going, there's no way. Well, then I started poking around. There is a way. I'm not telling you Dominic Santarelli is absolutely going to be at LSU, but it's possible. And this would be a guy that could push for playing time on this team. It's a crowded lineup, and he fits into a category that includes some big hitters. And Mason Braun would be in that category, and then Cernan Aaron Beatty, whoever wasn't playing that day at DH, and the outfield's crowded, and he's not a great athlete, but he can hit. He is big and strong. Those are the guys to look at the highest end of this class. I don't think Schmidt's coming. I don't think Washington in the outfield is coming. I don't think Murphy is in the outfield is coming. And then you've got Jensen Hirschkorn, who's you've got a less than 50% chance, I think, and Dominic Santarelli, who may be a coin flip. Then there are two other guys I want to talk about in this segment because of their profile as two-way players. This is a new wave. that I don't think is a Shohei Ohtani thing, because college players have done this for a long time, but a lot of times in the last 20 years, it's been guys at smaller schools who could play the outfield and pitch out of the bullpen, who could play third base and pitch on Sunday. Like, because you don't have that many talented guys, and if you've got one guy who's really talented, he can do both, then you let him do it. But at Florida or LSU, they don't have to have that unless you're Jack Caglione. But we've seen a little bit of it resurging in time. And LSU is very open to two-way players. And there are two guys in this class that absolutely fit that. Will Adams is from Hoover, Alabama. The source that I had inside the program, one of them that I talked to Will Adams about, said, guy rakes. Just said he absolutely rakes. And it's the same thing I heard about Mason Braun last year. He's 6'2", 200 pounds, and he can really, really hit. However, he's also a left-handed pitcher that throws north of 93 miles an hour. He's 6'2", as I mentioned, and if he gets to Baton Rouge, I'm told he will absolutely do both. Absolutely. And there have been some talented guys that have gotten here. Skeens is chief among them, but they kind of figured out as January started that Skeens was going to be so good pitching, there was no need to put him out there to hit. And then in the first inning of the first game, Tommy White hurts his right shoulder diving back into first base, and you're thinking, am I going to put Skeens out there to run the bases? No. But there have been some guys that have come here with two-way potential, and they haven't really done it. Like Hasten Evans was a really good high school infielder. But Will Adams, I'm told, would absolutely do both if he got to LSU. Left-handed pitcher, first baseman, good hitter, interesting prospect, but he's a big-time draft risk. And then Lucas Noraki is an outfielder left-handed pitcher. He has been thought of as a pitcher for most of his high school projection into professional baseball. He throws 95. He's left-handed, and that's where people thought he would really be, but he kept hitting in high school. And then he went to the draft combine, and he was rocketing balls into the right field seat with a wooden bat. And he is a legitimate athlete that can play outfield. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, if this guy hits homers with a wooden bat in a pro stadium and throws 95 from the left side, like, what's the hook here? How could you get him back to LSU? And the way you do that, as I talked about yesterday, is usually that guy's got, and I use air quotes here, a flaw. In some cases, you're missing a vital tool. In some cases, your projectability is short based on one thing or another. And in this case, Noraki is not tall. He might not be 6 feet tall. I don't have a ruler and I'm not standing next to him, but based on the internet measurables, he might be 5'11". And at that point, with power and power stuff, all of a sudden pro scouts are thinking that's maybe not projectable to get a lot better. They like tall athletes. Alex Bregman got here because he's not tall and he broke his hand. 2 flaws. Stephen Milam got here and stayed here because he's not tall. Derek Curiel got here and stayed here because he was not filled out and wasn't hitting for power. If you've got, and I use air quotes here because these guys are all such good prospects. I don't mean to diminish their talents at all and for you to listen and go, well, he's not that good. But Lucas Noraki is maybe 5'11", and that's just not a pitching profile that a lot of teams are excited to throw $3 million at. So Will Adams and Lucas Noraki are potential, and I'm told certain, two-way guys if they get to Baton Rouge, and there's a chance. I would say it's possible neither guy gets to campus. It's possible one or two do. So those are kind of the first guys that I want to look at the top of this class. Again, to put a bow on it, Logan Schmidt is going to be a first-round pick, I think, and not going to sign. I'd be stunned if Malachi Washington or Anthony Murphy got to campus. Jensen Hurstcorn is far less than a 50-50 split. And then you get into Dominic Santorelli, Will Adams, and Lucas Noraki. If you can get 2 of those last 4, those are the headliners of your class. You can't get swept there. That's just a backbreaker. But if you can get 2 of those 4, you've really done something, either on the mound or in Santorelli's case with a super powerful bat. So you're just trying to fight them off to keep 2 guys in the camp. And that's kind of where you sit with the highest high end of this class. The next 2 spots I'm going to talk about in our next segment are infield and then right-handed pitching. And I think both are vital to this class. You're going to lose some, but there's some guys you got to keep around. We'll do that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing, lifetimeroofingla.com. Lifetimeroofingla.com is the website. They are so fired up to be able to offer you a lifetime workmanship warranty. That includes the workmanship, obviously. It also includes the materials, which are backed by CertainTeed, one of the most trusted names in roofing. It is storm season. Right now, it's pretty quiet. I like that. You like that. It's been quiet for a few years, and we like that. But we know that's inevitably going to come to an end. If you'd like them to come out and do an inspection and make sure your roof is in good shape, they can. If you'd like them to come out and do a fortification, do a tune-up to make sure that roof is as ready as it can be for storm season, they can do that as well. It's not just call if you need a new roof. If you just want it checked out, call Lifetime Roofing, and if there's something that needs to be done, they can handle that for you. They're online at lifetimeroofingla.com. That's lifetimeroofingla.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Love telling my friends at Gotro's Outdoor Power. Gotro's Outdoor Power. Online at gotrosonline.com. In July, they got incredible deals. It's grass cutting season, y'all. If you need a new zero turn, there's only one spot to go. It's Gotro's Outdoor Power. 20% off MSRP for Hustler commercial mowers, and 0% financing for 48 months is available. Go ahead and get by. They got 2 locations, Airline in Baton Rouge and in Gonzales. You cannot miss the Airline location. If you're driving by and you just see a mountain of orange Hustler inventory, that's it. They're the largest Hustler dealer in the state by far. They've got the largest parts inventory in the state, and they give you that personal touch that comes with a family-owned local business. You can buy a zero turn from the big old box store that has the massive parking lot, right? Or you could go with a local option that's going to help you service that for the life of the product. Are you ever going to hear from the big box store again? I can't promise you that. I can promise you'll hear from Gotro's Outdoor Power. So go by and see them on Airline in Baton Rouge or in Gonzales, or visit them online at gotrosonline.com. All right, 2 spots where you're going to see a ton of fluctuation here is the infield and the right-handed pitching. LSU has had a nightmare trying to get infielders through the draft and then trying to keep them on campus. Some of these names you won't even remember because I talked about them for a week, and then they went in the first, second, third round, signed. You never heard from him again. But like Mikey Romero went by first round to the Red Sox, and Tucker Toman was an early round pick. Quentin Young last year, Brady Ebell last year, Jaden Foskey last year. These are guys that were big-time infield prospects in those classes, and they didn't get to campus. And you've also signed guys like Mikey Ryan, Austin Rolig, Ethan Kloss, who have decided to leave the program. You just haven't been able to keep any infielders around. Stephen Milam stuck around, and then obviously Jack Ruckert is still here, but you've had to go get Danny Dickinson. You had to go get Tommy White. You had to go get Michael Braswell. You've just had trouble keeping infielders in the mix. And so now you've gone and gotten Cade Curlin and Dawson Park, but after this season, Stephen Milam, Cade Curlin, and Dawson Park are going to be gone. You need infielders, and they need to keep some around. And so these are 3 guys in this class that are infielders that LSU, I think, really needs to try to get 2 of them through this draft. Parker Lowe is the first one. He's the guy I think LSU would really like to get through the draft, and I think it's a possibility because Parker Lowe is only 6 feet tall, and he hits right-handed. Jay Johnson loves left-handed hitting infielders, loves them. And so do pro baseball scouts. So it's really hard to get those guys through, because all your infielders throw right-handed, so to get them the ones that hit left-handed that can hit right-handed pitching, it's just a valuable asset. And Lowe is right-handed, so he won't fit that criteria for some of them. But I love his infield actions. He looks like such a smooth defender. He's a shortstop for sure, and a guy that is a reasonably draftable prospect. It just depends on what his number is if LSU can get him through the draft. Luke Tucker is another one. He is 6'4", and he is left-handed. However, he's pretty likely to get to school. He's taking summer classes right now, which doesn't matter. We know that over the years. Like Zach Lee is the most famous one, but summer classes don't matter. That you can get on a private jet to go sign a contract from a summer class anytime you want. But he's got some real upside, but he's not a guy that starred on the showcase circuit. He's from north of Dallas. He's a guy that LSU could develop in the program I think it's a good chance Luke Tucker gets through. And then Jordan Martinez, like Lowe, is from the Jacksonville area. He's really twitchy. He's got really big back speed. He's got a huge throwing arm. He could play third base. He can play shortstop. And LSU feels okay about getting Martinez to campus. You get all three, awesome. If you lose two of the three, like that's a pretty big bummer. If you get two of the three, I think that's a thumbs up area. I think you've done a great job if you can get two of the three. So I'll be watching infielders this weekend: Parker Lowe, Luke Tucker, and Jordan Martinez. And the next area is right-handed pitching. This is very volatile because right-handed pitchers from the high school ranks are like last on the totem pole for pro organizations. Why? Because they're a dime a dozen. Everybody's right-handed, and a lot of high schoolers throw 95 miles an hour, and you can find a lot of them. Also, high school kids are raw. They oftentimes just beat high school kids with fastballs. They're hard to scout from that perspective. How good is he going to spin a breaking ball? What's he going to do when he faces better pitching? That's why when you go to college, you get scouted a little better and you can dominate at that level. Great. But the high school level, just because you blew Live Oak away, what does that mean? I don't know. Those guys can't hit 95-mile-an-hour fastballs. Also, high schoolers have a longer shelf life to get hurt. Like pitchers get hurt. So high school right-handed pitching is like last on the totem pole. LSU has got 3, 4, 5, 6 in this class, outside of the ones I talked about at the top, that I think they would love to get 3 of the 6. If you could hit 50% on these guys, and a lot of them are similar, then you'd be awesome. Cooper Sides is probably the least likely of this group. He's 6'5", mid-90s fastball, razor-sharp slider. Like, people like Sides a lot, and he's very likely to get $2 or $3 million, and I don't think he'll get through, but he would be awesome if he did. Like Chase Shores got through. You could see that. Cooper Sides would be fantastic. William Schmidt got through. Dylan Blomker is next. He's another 6'4" right-hander, throws 97. He's got kind of a shorter arm stroke than Sides, but they're similar in stature, similar in the prospect rankings, and probably similar risks. Split the difference would be awesome. I think there's a decent chance both guys bolt. Colby Stringer's maybe a name that you know. Colby Stringer is from Mississippi. He just committed to LSU this spring. In fact, I can do some pretty quick deductive reasoning. I was in Starkville this season. It was me and Koki Riley from The Advocate, and we were the only ones doing post-game interviews with Jay Johnson. And after they had been swept in the last game on Sunday, Jay looked at Bill Franquez, the SID who was on the field, and he pointed to me and Koki, and he said, "Hey, can I knock this out? I got to go see a recruit." We talked to me and Koki for 15 minutes, and then 24 hours later, a kid from Mississippi, Colby Stringer, committed to LSU. I think I figured out when Jay Johnson locked that deal up. It was pretty easy to figure out 24 hours later. Stringer is from a small town in Mississippi, and he exploded as a senior. Just a monster year for the 6'3" right-hander. Big fastball, good breaking ball, and he's one of those guys that didn't do the showcase circuit at all, was not on anybody's radar, but then people started to hear about him in February, March, April of this year, and everybody flocked to see him pitch a couple of times. And that just gets a lot of attention and a lot of buzz going. When you're that late a riser, people notice you very quickly, and so I think my gut is that LSU does not get him to campus, but it is absolutely possible. He's not a slam dunk, like top 30 pick. He's a guy that was late on the scene, and everybody's aware of him because everyone had to rush to go see him. But I think there's a decent chance that he moves on. If he doesn't, be a really big get for LSU. Then you've got Colton Brady. He's my favorite of the fringe guys in this class. Why? He's 6'5", and he's got a really fluid delivery. I like Reagan Ricken in this class from last year, and Colton Brady. I'm not suggesting that I think they're aces. There are guys on this list that I would take before Colton Brady. But when I'm looking at realistic guys to get to campus and the profile for a potential weekend starting pitcher, Colton Brady is one I really, really like. He's on campus too right now. If you look at prospect lists, he's around 200. That's a deal where it's how much money does an organization have? And he's probably a guy that's going to get a call for like 1.2. If he gets a call for 2.2, probably Katie bar the door. If he gets a call for 850, it's like, well, I don't know. He's a pretty strong commitment, and I love the profile for Colton Brady. If they could get him through, it would be awesome. Major Osbolt is the only JUCO commitment in this class. I think he's a very significant draft risk because he's old. He's going to be 22 for next year's draft. He's 21 right now. I just feel like you're looking at a guy that that is very likely to sign out of the junior college ranks. Would be a nice guy to add, obviously, but I think you're probably going to lose him. And then Braden Wisner is the next one. In a class of like towering right-handers, so I've given you a bunch of 6'5" guys, Braden Wisner is 6'2", but he still can touch 97. So, again, I talk about the quote-unquote flaw. 6'2" is not 6'5", and there are 6'5", 6'7" guys in this class. What do the scouts think about Braden Wisner? I think LSU's got a chance to get him to campus. LSU feels okay about getting him to school, and he's got a lot of talent. So this is a list of 6 I've given you with Cooper Sides, Dylan Blomker, Colby Stringer, Colton Brady, Major Osbolt, and Braden Wisner. If you could get 3 of the 6, it would be awesome. LSU, I think, is prepared to lose 7 or 8 guys. If it's like 11, it's another really big gut punch. If it's like 6, you're going to have to make some decisions with the roster because you'll be over the limit. And that's not Jay Johnson's fault because the portal window is early and the draft is late, and his job is to get as many good players as possible. And if there have to be some tough conversations next week based on how this thing goes, that's what's got to happen. I would suggest if you have thought this was a lot to digest, and there are more players in this class, a couple of left-handers that are exciting, and Spencer Evans and Braden Cupid, a couple other guys, and a first baseman with a really good power bat and really good contact bat in Dylan Minity, and then an outfielder in Wesley Robertson, who I don't think LSU is going to get. There's more on LouisianaSports.net that you can read and maybe digest a little bit more. Google some guys' names that you see. If you're driving around and I'm just ripping off high school baseball players' names, that's going to be tough. But the moral of the story is I've grouped these on LouisianaSports.net in groups that if LSU can get half of them, beyond the top one, you're not getting half of that top tier. If you can get 2 of those guys, it'd be incredible. I've got them in groups where LSU's prepared to get 50% of that group. And if they do that, they'll feel like they've built themselves enough depth. Jay Johnson intentionally got more commitments than he's going to have roster spots because the guys he signs are going to be looked at by Pro Bowl. The majority of these guys that I've gone through that are 50-50 on the fence, it's oftentimes like a 1.5 to 2.5 window. And if you've got families and agents and players that are convicted enough to tell $1.8 million that I'll see in 3 years, I'll see in 2 years, you get that guy. If you don't, and you've got a family and agent and a player who say their number's 2.1 and 1.65 shows up and they jump at 1.65, well, that happens. And that's when you feel like you've lost a roster spot. Jay Johnson wasn't willing to do that this time around. He's just overloaded it. And there's a reasonable chance that next week Jay Johnson's going to have some discussions with people that's like, hey, I don't have a spot. And it's just part of it. In this era with the schedule they've got, that's what's got to happen. So that's my look at the MLB draft. Again, it's there for free on the homepage of LouisianaSports.net. If you go to LouisianaSports.net, if you're watching this on YouTube or if you get around to looking at this later and it's not on the homepage because something's rolled it off, there's always a tab that's teams, LSU, and you can even go to LSU Baseball, and this will be front and center if you go to the LSU Baseball tab on LouisianaSports.net. So feel free to give that a look if you got some time and are interested in LSU's draft. It cranks up this weekend in Philadelphia, 2-day event that should be massively impactful for LSU Baseball moving forward. Our Wednesday show is brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. We'll come back with What If Wednesday next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust. Find them online at FABT.com. It's FABT.com. Started up in 1910. 116 years later, they're still here, and they're still growing. 25 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana, so there's always one near you. Here's the difference when you bank with First American Bank and Trust. If you're applying for a commercial loan, you're applying for a personal loan, don't you feel better if the people reviewing that are local? If the people reviewing that are the people that you share a town with, share a city with? You're not picking up the phone to call somebody in Chicago. You're not picking up the phone to call somebody in Atlanta. You're picking up the phone to call somebody whose kids go to school where yours do. That's what you get at First American Bank and Trust. Every single branch is in Southeast Louisiana. So if you're just outside of Baton Rouge, or if you're up I-12, or if you're down the bayou in Metairie, there's a branch near you with people working in the branch that are in your community. It's a community feel with the resources that come with those 25 locations. It's First American Bank and Trust. Check them out online at fabt.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
It's that time of year where you're thinking, man, wish I had that pool I've always wanted, but I don't. So I just fry in the backyard when it's 104 degrees. Change it. Contact Renaissance Homes and Pools. They can build you the home of your dreams. They can build you the pool of your dreams. You've already got a great pool, but maybe you got it 15 years ago. What can you do to kind of revitalize it? Well, you can call Renaissance Homes and Pools. You're talking about being able to revitalize a job that was done a decade ago by removing and reinstalling, removing the old plaster, reinstalling the new plaster. That's generally got to be done every 10 to 15 years. If it's fading or peeling, Renaissance can come in, remove the old, reinstall the new. And what that's going to do is it's going to update the pool. You can get a new water line put in. You don't have to, but you can get new tile, plaster, make your pool look brand new at a reasonable cost. You can actually expand what you've done with your decking. You can expand your equipment. You can add automation to control pumps and heaters, heater lights, valves. All that can be done by our friends at Renaissance Homes and Pools. And just call the owner. I give you his number every single week, 225-252-7745. Call Joey, send him a text. Send Joey a text. Say, hey, I'd like to look at a new pool. Hey, I'd like to look at remodeling my pool. He can do that. 225-252-7745. Renaissance Homes and Pools, built by Renaissance.com. It's What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
All right, so what if you could have one LSU offensive coordinator and one defensive coordinator? In its prime, we get that football has changed from the last 25 years for the next 10 years.
All right, they've had some good ones, obviously. On defense, you're talking about Muschamp under Saban. You're talking about Bo Pelini, who we got back. I don't think that's going to be the answer. But you're talking about John Chavis, who I thought did an awesome job up until the end when he decided to bail for Texas A&M. Obviously, you had Dave Aranda come in after that. I think that Blake Baker has done a great job. But for me, I just felt the best with Dave Aranda on the sideline. I just thought he was the best. It's a best of a good group, and I would go with Dave Aranda. Offensively, I'm kind of tempted. I know who his quarterback was, and it was a short time. I'm kind of tempted to go with Mike Denbrock. He has been consistent at every stop.
Notre Dame, yeah.
It's not the flashiest thing you've ever seen, but, like, the guy gets it. And so I'm looking at Gary Croton and Jimbo Fisher. I'm looking at Joe Sloan. I'm looking at Greg Stadrala, and it's certainly not Cam Cameron. Like I think Ainsminger did a really good job, but and Matt Canada got a raw deal, I think. But I think I would go with Mike Denbrock.
Okay, so what if Joey McGuire from Texas Tech was given the SEC smoke he's been asking for?
I mean, if Texas Tech got dropped into the SEC, I think it'd be a rude awakening for them. You just don't get a lot of Arizona State into BYU, into Kansas State, into TCU.
Colorado in there.
Yeah, it's just not a lot of that. Now, there's certainly some that Texas Tech's miles better than Mississippi State. They're miles better than Kentucky. They're a good football program that would win plenty of games in the SEC. But if you took a couple of those games I was talking about out and you went to Tuscaloosa, Andor went to Athens, Andor went to Austin, Andor went to Knoxville.
Knoxville.
It's not going to go as well. You're not going 11-1. I don't think with that roster. So they would be okay. They'd be like LSU's been the last couple of years, but they're not in the playoff.
You feel like not as low as Arkansas, but right around where LSU is, would you say? SEC-wise?
Yeah, I think they'd be around where LSU's been. LSU's had a lot of talented dudes. They spend a lot of money in the portal, and they lose 4 or 5 games. Like, that's probably what Texas Tech would do. They're not in Texas or certainly Georgia's class. Sorry.
All right, so what if you could pick LSU's 3 representatives for SEC Media Days?
Oh, definitely go with Levitt, 100%. Got to have the quarterback, and he's just an interesting story. I would not take Witt. Witt is gregarious. I would love to go over to Witt's house and let him cook dinner for me and hang out.
Big crawfish
But
guy.
I've heard Witt talk enough to know he's going to give a really positive answer with a big smile on his face every time. And I like that, but I've seen it a lot, so I don't really need that. So I'm definitely in with Levitt. I feel like I would kind of like to hear from Winnie Watkins, who has no chance to go, but he was really good on AFR. Yeah. Gave some great quotes, and he's a good personality. Plus, he's got Kiffin Weiss stories he can tell me from being in that program at Ole Miss. So probably Winnie Watkins.
That was a deep pool. I didn't think he was going to go Winnie.
Yeah, and then I gotta find somebody on defense there, I guess.
You want somebody that's been around?
I don't know enough about Ty Benefield, and he's probably the guy. I mean, I thought TJ Dotter's a pretty good quote, and he's been at Clemson and Ole Miss. But I think that's reasonable. Let me go with Levitt, Winnie Watkins, and Ty Benefield is probably if I got to pick for my content purposes to go to interact with him one-on-one, because I'll get to talk to all three of those guys probably at 2 different stops to get content for the website and for the show. So those are probably the 3 that I'm most interested to talk to, that on top of that are pretty good quotes. Like, there are great players that aren't great quotes, and you don't need to be a great quote. I'd rather you go make 100 tackles or score 10 touchdowns, but those are the guys based on what I know about their quotes and their stories that I would probably like to hear from.
Yeah, the 3 transfers. I didn't think he was going to go that way. I didn't think he was going to pick the 3 transfers.
I would be thrilled if Bo Bordelon goes, and I hope he does. I've heard him talk too.
In reality, he probably will be. Yeah, the real thing. So what if Myers or Keller decided soccer is their sport of choice and passion? What if Hunt becomes a soccer dad and coach?
So that's from the text line, I'm told. There's no way I can be the soccer coach past like 2nd grade. And even if I was the coach into 2nd grade, the kids are at a huge disadvantage because I don't know anything about soccer other than don't pick the ball up unless you got a different color shirt on.
Yeah.
And I do understand offsides, but I don't think they do that in 2nd grade. So I will be thrilled for them if they love soccer and have great friends and excel in that and can make that their high school sport of choice. I have great high school sports memories, and if that's what they choose to do, that's what they're good at. Awesome. Myers loved soccer last year, and I loved watching him play. It's not going to make me watch Man U and Man City play in a Saturday morning Premier League game. That's not going to happen. It's just not. But I'd be thrilled if they want to do that. I'll tell you where I am going to draw the line, because I've seen parents do this, and it's okay if they do it. I'm just not. If one of my kids goes to Ole Miss or Bama or A&M or Texas, you will not find me grabbing a new polo from that school's bookstore to wear it on campus for their game day.
Really?
That is not going to happen. Now, if they play for the team, we'll have to have a new discussion.
Okay.
But if they're just going to school there, and look, there's lots of parents probably listening right now. They're like, oh yeah, my kid goes to decided to go to Bama, and I got a Bama polo, or my kid goes to A&M, and I go to Parents Weekend, and I put on that ain't happening, boss. Not a freaking shot. Chris Marler, who works here, he wears SEC gear for schools that he does not pull for, and I'm like, I can't do that, man.
Yeah,
it may be wild to some, or some people that's childish. You're not going to find me putting on an Ole Miss shirt. That's just not going to happen.
Okay, well, I don't want to speak into existence, but let's just say Myers is the striker for Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Signs with A&M. We're at his National Signing Day. Is Hunt Palmer there in an A&M shirt with an A&M hat, smiling behind the camera?
I guess.
Family photo.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a white shirt. I got a Callaway golf hat I can wear. But
everybody else
black.
got A&M stuff on.
I don't like it.
But he's going there for the next 4 years. Well, 5 years. He's got 5 and 5.
As long as he plays for the soccer team and doesn't wear a milk costume and scream and dance around the sidelines. How about that?
Okay, we could do that.
We can play soccer.
We can do that.
Play soccer.
We can do that.
Not yell leading. All right, let's talk to Dr. Jeremy Burnham. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Speaking of Dr. Jeremy Burnham, he's with the good folks at Oxter, and they want to help you out with the heat this summer. You know it's here, and heat stroke is a real thing, y'all. You've got to be mindful of it all the time when you're outside, especially if you're a young athlete. The folks at Oxter recommend you wear loose gear, breathable gear, work out in the morning, in the evening, drink water and low-sugar electrolyte drinks. Skip out on alcohol if you're training hard. It's sometimes tough for some of us, but you got to try to do that. Use sunscreen, sunglasses. A true sun coverage hat can absolutely help. You can pick one of those up. And know your limits. That may be as important as anything. If you feel off at all, don't push it in this heat. It is not to be messed with in this part of the world in this time of year. Hydration is so important year-round, so make sure you do that. That's all courtesy of our friends over at Auctioner. If you need to find a nearest urgent care, you can do that at auctioner.org/UC for urgent care. That's auctioner.org/UC.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Closing out hour number 1 here, Wednesday edition of The Hunt Palmer. Always our pleasure to welcome on the team from Auctioner, Dr. Jeremy Burnham, good enough to give us some time this week. Joins us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Dr. Burnham, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Good afternoon. Joining you from Seattle, Washington.
Ah, beautiful. Unfortunately, where the U.S.'s World Cup dreams died right there in the Pacific Northwest. Injuries have been a big talk in the World Cup, some significant, some very unfortunate in terms of the circumstances. I don't know if you saw this. Jordan Henderson scored a goal in the World Cup, went to jump over the signage on the side and to celebrate, and he's going to miss the rest of the World Cup.
Well, believe it or not, Hunt, these celebration injuries are more common than you would think. And if you really kind of go back and look over the last several years, just in Louisiana, we've seen several notable celebration injuries, and there's been some research on it. A colleague of mine actually did a study where he looked at some of the statistics around celebration injuries.
I mean, that's nuts. I mean, we've seen some in the past. There's a famous NFL quarterback that ran in for a touchdown and then headbutted the wall and sprained his neck and couldn't play. The Grammatica kicker who jumped in the air. Is ACL the most likely injury when guys are jumping on one leg and spinning around to celebrate or dancing?
Well, so believe it or not, the ACL is one of the most common ones. Ankle injuries are the second most common. They looked at how does it happen, what kind of celebrations, and the themes that they found was usually when you're doing some type of a dog pile maneuver or somebody goes to slide into, say, like a celebration pile. That's actually the most dangerous. And actually, 1/4 of these injuries, 26%, require surgery. And so that's a number I didn't quite realize. But these have the potential to be just as bad as an injury that's sustained on the field.
This screams to me. I don't know if you know this, but Will Wade at LSU basketball said one time they chart how many times per practice players land on either leg to see if they can help prevent injuries in this way. This screams like something Will Wade would have specialists in to look at about celebrations to make sure they don't get hurt. If there's a significant study on that. There's that data is fascinating to me for sure. And another thing that's fascinating, you said you're in Seattle, but y'all are at another conference and presenting again on ACL research.
That's right. So the American Orthopedic Society for Sports Medicine, that's one of the main ortho sports med conferences. We're here in Seattle. They're having their annual meeting. Our research team and sports medicine team in Baton Rouge, some of our ACL injury prevention research was selected to be presented here. So super proud of the team. And, I think we have world-leading elite sports in Louisiana. I'm glad to see that the sports medicine is getting recognized on the national stage as well.
It's incredible, incredible stuff. I know, look, we're in July, and we're kind of starting to turn the page to football at this point. I know that a lot of youth high school teams will crank things up here in the next few weeks. The Saints are going to get into action here within the month. LSU is less than a month from practicing as well. And the Heat here is something I was just talking about in our live read for y'all. But I know that's something that y'all focus a ton on. Is there anything that you would suggest specifically that folks, it's not just, hey, drink water and make sure you take a break and get in the shade. Like there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, there really is, and there's a lot more data about it now than there used to be, so we're starting to understand it better. It's extremely dangerous. I think acclimation is probably one of the keys. We use a term called a wet bulb globe thermometer, and so that's a thermometer that really tells us how much heat that the body's feeling. All of our partner teams, we're able to provide them that data. You're seeing a lot of teams, even football teams, are shifting practice to the mornings. My girls run track and cross country, and they're running during the summer, every weekday morning, they start their run by 6 a.m. with their team just to try to avoid some of those worst days. I think like anything else physical, it's just about consistency and not doing too much too soon, but being regularly acclimated to that and then being smart about the times that you're outside.
Well, congrats on the opportunity to present up there in Seattle. Enjoy a little bit of cooler weather and safe travels coming back. We'll talk in a couple of weeks.
Thanks. Hey, have a great day.
You too. That's Dr. Jeremy Burnham with Auctioner, who's mentioned running. I've gotten into a routine. When my kids wake up, it's nonstop the whole day. So I've just decided I'm going to knock out my running and a lot of my morning work before they ever get out of bed. It's light outside at like 5:15, and I usually run at about 5:40. It's actually kind of nice out there. It's a little bit muggy, but it's kind of nice compared to what it is at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I would kind of suggest that. I will say this, Jordan. There is a couple. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the air. There's a couple in my neighborhood. There are only a few of us out there at 5:45 moving around. It's the same 4 people I see in my neighborhood every morning. There's a couple that walks in what I believe to be their clothing for the day.
No way.
I am drenched in sweat. Now I'm running and they're walking, but
Still humid.
I would just be a mess if I walked around for 25 minutes. Pants on, button-down shirt, not long sleeve, but button-down short sleeve shirt.
Oh no.
I support the effort to spend some time together and to get moving around at 5:45, but I'm not sure I can support the attire.
Can't hit the showers, man. No way.
And they might. They just don't really have any athletic gear, and there are a couple that probably appears in their 50s or 60s to me.
Okay, so they might be retired, you think?
It's possible.
Okay.
Maybe they just don't have any athletic wear, and they're going ahead and getting a shower after that. But
okay.
I run by them every morning, and I'm just like, that clothing would not work for me. It just would not.
As it shouldn't. Come on, man. A button up and some slacks?
My shirt was just absolutely drenched this morning. I didn't have a dry fit on. That will be that's something I'll rectify tomorrow. Get out there in the mornings or in the evenings if you're going to move around, because obviously the heat is a big deal at this point in the calendars. Thanks to Dr. Jeremy Burnham for jumping aboard. That if you haven't seen that English football player, soccer player, get injured jumping over the signage, it's very Grammatica-esque. It's kind of like what Mason Smith did in the Superdome, but he wasn't celebrating. He was just jumping over a pile. That was a tough scene in that one. All right, that's it for hour number 1. I spent the first 30 minutes of the hour talking about LSU's baseball signing class. If that's interesting to you with the draft coming up and you'd like to get some names and see what LSU needs to get through the draft, I've written about it at LouisianaSports.net, and that'll be published on demand as well, wherever you find your sound. It's extensive, but there's a lot of it, and I think it's very important. So spent 30 minutes on that. Also, What If Wednesday, and thanks for Dr. Burnham to come on. We're going to talk some LSU football, the center position, and then Tyrann Mathieu and Verge Osbury talking hoops. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, if your toilet, your shower, your bathtub are old and dingy, maybe they don't function properly, transform your bathroom. Put a new bathtub in. Put a new walk-in shower in. Put new flooring and a new vanity in. David Vaughn and his team can do the entirety of that project. They did it for our Talk 107.3 morning host, Brian Haldane. And the Haldanes have been thrilled. They went from 1 vanity to 2 in their bathroom, redid the floors, gorgeous new shower, soup to nuts. One Bath and Closets can do it. And if you're concerned about payments, they have financing available. 0% up to 18 months. That is same as cash. Get that free consultation. It's free to talk to David. You can get that at OneBathAndClosets.com. You can see some of the great pictures of their work. Revitalize your bathroom entering the fall with One Bath and Closets.